my writing session today ended up becoming an evening session. Typically, when I do this, I tend to write in the morning, first thing, and this just ended up becoming an evening session. What had happened was I had some things to take care of very early this morning, first thing, and then I had to obviously get to work. So, wasn't able to fit this in till the evening time, and I ended up getting, I don't know, like 30 pages or something like that reviewed. So, good normal pace. I guess, a good pace, all things considered. Writing at night, though, and kind of writing in the evenings after work, I'm reminded how much that sucks. How kind of fried I am from the workday, how tired I am, how much I hate doing it. I said before that I detest writing in the evenings after work. I just, when I'm fried from the day, I just cannot focus. I know some people have that ability. For me, I just never have. It's much better for me to just do it first thing. At least that's tends to be how I tend to operate. And it's interesting too, because as I went through this, I was kind of there are days obviously when most of the time I'm kind of cranking it out. Basically, it's from the time I get up basically till just about evening time, I'm doing something. If it's not the writing, it's not working the day job. It's getting prepared for my powerlifting meet. It's getting prepared for my chess tournament. I'm always doing something. I'm always kind of chipping away at something, and it's interesting to see that this evening, is kind of the reminder of where I was able to look at this and re-examine it and see that, I could have been doing something else. I could have tonight, I was very tempted basically just to sort of, kind of phone like a minute or two on the computer here, shoot like, maybe like a minute or so, and then just basically go write, basically just chill it and watch some TV or something. And it's important to understand that temptation is always going to be there. As you kind of go through this, as, if you start to take writing more seriously, we start trying to turn this into potentially some viable career path. If you're doing this around a day job, you're not going to be getting those evenings. You're really, it's very difficult to have that, and to be someone who can have the, I'm going to work the day job, then I'm going to write in the evening, or I'm going to, write before work and write in the evenings, and then I'm just going to chill out and kind of live the rest, just relax basically the rest of the time. It's very rare to do that. It's very, very rare for someone to be able to pull that off. Often in this process, you don't get to really have both worlds. You don't get to have the idea of the person that gets to have that nice balance of, waking up, going to work, coming home, seeing your family, getting to watch TV, and then still somehow achieving your dream. It often basically becomes sort of an all or nothing gig. You tend to put yourself in a position where most of your days, most of your evenings do not look like that. And it's an important thing to go in understanding that. If most people do not kind of do not go this avenue, most people do not end up going down a path where they're trying to start their own business, trying to become, world class at something. Most just do not do that. Most people work 1-2 jobs, go home, and they basically Netflix, right? That's their life, and it's a very tempting thing because it's it's not necessarily a bad trade-off in a sense, right? You're so taxed from working your 1 or 2 jobs that you get home and the Netflix is the reward, right? It's the unwinding. It's a very, very tempting thing to fall into. But if you look at the people that are world class, the people that end up actually being able to turn, go from basically something to, nothing to something, right? Those people, they weren't able to do that. They didn't get that luxury in the process because it can't be done. There's none of this, having your cake and eating it too scenario where, yeah, I'm gonna, put a little bit of effort into my writing today. I'm gonna get gonna go to work. Then I'm going to come home and I'm going to spend 4 hours watching TV. It doesn't work. It's unfortunate, but it simply, you can't have both, and that's the thing you have to understand, is that you have to install the habit of being hyper focused on these things to a point that it's obsessive, and to the point that I think it can become at times very, very toxic. That's a separate thing to kind of recognize that it's a separate thing. But you don't get to do both. You don't get to have a normal life and also go after this. You have to. One sacrifices for the other. Unfortunately, if you don't believe this, start looking for like I would implore you to look at the examples of the people that have achieved these very world class things, and you'll recognize that most of them had some sort of, like, the ones that basically that run counter to the argument, the ones that are the exceptions to the rule, often had something in addition, right? Like they had good financial means, they had some sort of advantage that allowed them to put more time on their studies, on their focus, in less time having to do the monotony of just basic survival. They don't have to spend, the person that marries into wealth, the person that has some degree of money here, they don't have to, grind 8 hours at the day job. So yeah, they can sit at the computer for 4 or 5 hours a day, write their bestseller basically each day, and then have their evenings to kind of relax and enjoy it. That's at a certain level, that's kind of what we all hope for. And some people just, if you're financially well off, just as an example, yes, you can have that, I guess, that sort of balance. But for most of us that are going through this, there's no balance. There's no being normal. You can't really be the common man and do the uncommon thing. It's unfortunate, but you need to press further. You need to be more all in on what you're trying to do and less on trying to have that fun little balance to life. And again, where that gets toxic, where that becomes an issue, where that obsession becomes a problem, it's different for every person. It's hard. I think it's in many ways it's hard to gauge it, but it's going to be probably closer to that extreme than the other. All right. Yeah. So with an update though on where the novel is, we're getting into the month of October here, and I'm still debating doing an early query. I'm debating it. I'm going through. I'm liking what I'm reading here. It's looking solid. I think I could do maybe 1-2 more passes of this thing once I'm done with this, and I think it could be done. So we're discussing maybe the idea, maybe doing that query. Perhaps doing an early query, maybe getting into potentially December instead of January. I'm very, very tempted to do it. I'm tempted to get this project off, just as much as I'm sort of tempted to kind of wrap these things up. As much as I'm tempted to get this thing to other people, I'm also tempted just to end this project. I've spoken before about how I've exhausted as much as I can. I've kind of pushed this as far as I could go, and it's time to move on to the next one. So I'll be back tomorrow, though. Until then, stay safe and happy writing.